full moon in Pisces, along with a retrograde Saturn and retrograde Pluto. Uh, it's a different aspect of the moon that's catching my attention. Just like to say at this point that I do not believe that they have walked on the moon, nor do I believe it is possible for someone to walk on the moon. And I think that if you still think that they have been to the moon, or at very least, if you think that they did go to the moon back on Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin's trip, and you think that the president at the time, Richard Nixon, was able to use a landline to phone them while they were on the moon and congratulate them. But we can't cover certain countryside areas because just too far. Yeah, I think certain things have become obvious that we were lied to. And there was the debate that came up around 2012, 2013. Everyone started talking about flat Earth. And I think that the trouble with the arguments between globe Earth and flat Earth is that all of the scientists that talk on the subject assert that what they believe is the same as 93 to 97% of what other scientists believe. Then you try and define what that model is. And one says it's perfectly spherical and the NASA depictions are correct. Then others point out that the blue marble Earth from NASA's depictions are all computer generated, admitted by NASA, and that the real sphere is imperfect and more pear shaped. But then they would use a perfectly spherical model when trying to explain the curvature of water, even though it always sits level when it's not in motion. I remember looking hard for the truth when this information came out. I wanted to learn how to use the analemma to determine what shape we are standing on, and every popular scientist was dropping insults and being condescending and explaining nothing. Michael from Vsauce was the only one who didn't straight up insult the people asking flat earth questions. What I like to do is sit on the fence, watch people lose their minds trying to explain how it works. Some people go off on mad rants when confronted with it. It's a thing that my mum likes to do. Just ask someone, have you ever considered that the world could be flat? They can give lectures and everything, get highly triggered. Then you point out that you didn't actually say that it was, just asked if you had considered it, and then watch you have a cognitive dissonance episode. Same goes for flat earthers. In just about every Santos Bonacci flat earth debate, you'd start swearing at his opponents and calling them porky bum eaters and not really making a good case for the flat earth argument, despite having quite a lot of compelling evidence in his arsenal. If you're a flat earther that believes the earth is stationary, then how would you explain the planets being in retrograde? The heliocentric model works for predicting these perfectly. And that model only works if Earth is moving. So what model would work if Earth is stationary? If you're a globe Earther and you believe that the Earth is moving, then how comes we see the same star constellations as we could see in ancient Greece? If they truly were just trillions and trillions of miles away, then at very least they should become more illuminated the closer we get to them. Or are we to believe that all star constellations move at the same speed as us and maintain the same formations? If you can't explain either of those to an 8-year-old, you have no business telling other people that they are stupid for exploring the concepts. If they are investigating it and you believe it's not worth investigating, then who's doing the real science? If you believe it is you, then you may have to reassess your findings, because real scientists get excited about new ways of proving old findings. Posers just memorize what they're told as fact and then get angry if they can't explain it. I mean, no one wants to look stupid now, do they? I think it's important to know what you do and don't know and why you know it. I think the real answer isn't as important as knowing just that. If you remember the film Bruce Almighty, Morgan Freeman proving to Jim Carrey that he is God, Jim or Bruce was asking, how many fingers am I holding up? And then after Morgan Freeman had guessed right a bunch of times, Bruce held up 7 fingers, then dropped 2 fingers from one hand. Uh, God says 7. Bruce then laughs as he holds up his one hand, thinking he'd caught him out. Held up the hand to show that he had 5 fingers and looked and saw 7 fingers on that one hand. The point is, our creator could have made either work. Same as computer game designers. Minecraft is the flat earth model, StarCraft would be the globe earth model. Both games can exist. If this world is a simulation, whether it be God's simulation or a creation of God's simulation, it doesn't really matter. If it's a demiurge or some tricks of the devil during Satan's little season, it has still been permitted by God. The knowledge of what we can and can't know is, I think, more important than what the actual outcome is in your reality. It's like knowing that absolutely anything is possible is the best takeaway lesson that you could get from that. I think that that's one of the most important things to try and, instead of seeing things in linear time where you have a past, present, and future, it's knowing that all of those things are mutable, they are changeable. If you've ever looked into the Mandela effects, you may have had experiences where things don't always seem to be what they were. If you ever looked into Mandela effects, and it's like whether or not these things are placed there on purpose as part of this illusionary world, but placed there consciously by people within the world, or whether it is like a glitch in the matrix or a change in the programming that causes the past to be different from how you remember, you can still get that effect from looking into things like, if you have read the Bible, there are quite a lot of them that come up, like the lamb laying down with the lion. It's apparently now the wolf and the lion, the wolf and the lamb dwell together. The 4 horsemen of the apocalypse: war, death, famine, and pestilence. Except that it's now war, conquest, death, and famine. I think it was pestilence, the one that was missed out. But yeah, there's tons of things that you can find online that are, I mean, some of them minor, inconsequential, but with things that are in scriptures, this is things that many people have spent years memorizing, and all of a sudden they're going and checking their grandmother's coffee that's not been touched in 50 years and clear as day, and the lines just don't add up to what was remembered. What was the other one? Forgive our trespasses. Um, and the Lord's Prayer is now forgive our debtors. There's quite a lot of changes that have happened. The main point being that any of the history or the past or the thing that would go in to explain the causality, it can be changed and altered. And then the future can be changed and altered as well. And with that being a possibility, trying to find definite proof on something from history is something that I'm afraid we're just going to have to accept that we can never know. We can fabricate a past and a future and have a linear experience, but in terms of finding definite proof in something that's infinite and has always existed, not possible. Like, you can't tell how old this place is. It's always existed. If it's always existed, it hasn't got an age. You can't start counting from a point within something that's always existed. Maybe that's deep enough for now. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more.